Well, hello, and welcome to a very special edition of Sporting Lives with Bradford City manager and former Scotland international, of course, Stuart McCall. I say special because apart from the quality of my guest today, I'm excited as well, as is Stuart, to be able to try and help to raise awareness and raise some funds for a local community football pitch in West Leeds, which is pretty dear to both our hearts, having played there during our youth. It's a TV Harrison ground on Oldfield Lane in Wortley, in West Leeds, and it was dubbed the Wortley Wembley back in the day. Now, we'll let others get involved in all the politics of what's going on with this. They've already been doing plenty in that respect anyway. The facts, according to the Leeds Live website, are that developers are planning to put 61 homes on the land that is the TV Harrison ground. A pitch that saw the likes of Stuart, of Brian Dean, David Batty, Noel Whelan all learn their football and represent the local Leeds sides of their era. So the nitty-gritty, folks, is that the TV Harrison Community Action Group are trying to raise another £2,500 as a minimum towards their legal fees to fight the case to keep it as a community football pitch and sports facility. They're appealing for your help, as by definition myself and Stuart are, by appearing on this vodcast today. Now, you might have already paid to watch this video before we've got to this stage. Thanks if you have. If you haven't done so yet, then, or if you want to make an added donation, they've also got a Just Giving page, the TV Harrison Community Group Just Giving page, for which I'll put the details on screen. Please bear in mind that neither Stuart nor myself are charging a penny for this, so please do what you can to help. You can also get in touch with them as well on Twitter on @SavePitch. That's a lady by the name of Lee Westerman. Or you can join on their face group, which is the TV Harrison Sports Ground community Facebook page, to keep up to date with the latest and where this goes from here. But we thought we'd try and do something to help. And really, we know Stuart had a fantastic career. One of the players who's played the most in the history of the Football League, 40 appearances for Scotland, and we could probably talk for the rest of the day. I know I could, going through all that with him. But we want to focus on what this pitch means to Stuart McCall. Now, Stuart, obviously, from a footballing family, your dad played. The family moved down to Leeds at some point during his career when he played there in the 50s. Let's first of all step in by you taking us back to what it was like for you as a young lad in Leeds, and what are your first sort of memories and your first footballing memories as well?
Yeah, it was a case of, I was actually born a corner kick away from Elland Road Stadium. I was born in the hospital in Leeds, but I lived for the first year of my young life just behind the Peacock pub, not far from there. But then we moved over to Wortley, Leeds Homes, and I must have been probably half a mile away from, as we used to call it, I know it's a TV Harrison ground, but Oldfield Lane. If you ever used to talk about Oldfield Lane, if you were going to play Oldfield Lane as a kid, then you'd made a final or you were somebody. It was, the big ground in Leeds, if you like, and I was fortunate enough to play many a game there.
Something special about it as well when you sort of walked into the place, the fence around the side, the changing rooms at the side and all that. There was that little sort of sloping angle to the thing. But yeah, you just felt like, as I mentioned, it was like our schoolboy version of Wembley, wasn't it?
It was brilliant. And I was fortunate that, like I say, I lived so near. I went to the school, went to Upper Wortley School first as a kid, which was obviously really near it, and then Thornhill Middle School, which unfortunately is no longer there. That got bulldozed a long time ago. And then I went on to live at Toff Street, just behind the Asda there, which was, you could walk, inside a minute to it. So, yeah, but it was, I've got some great memories, I've got to say. I remember at Thornhill in the middle school getting to the final, and I think the headmaster in the morning saying to everyone they could have maybe half a day off to go watch us play in this final, and half of the school were there. So, for a small ground, in obviously large football stadium terms, but to have nearly all the school there supporting us was brilliant. And there were a lot of times, obviously, Leeds City boys played there. I remember I used to play as an under 11 a year higher, so I was in the under 12s, I remember Terry Connor, who obviously went on to play for Leeds. I used to go watch Terry and come on as a super sub and score against the Liverpool and likes in the last 93rd minute. I remember being in the boys' pen one day when he came on and scored. But Terry, I remember he was coming out, and I think it was Dr. Foster, one of the coaches, and he had a big Dulux dog, and we were going to have to do some hard training or something. I can't remember, but the caveat was, and the bribe was, if Terry could race the dog across the pitch and beat it, then we didn't have to do any hard work. So I remember all of us stood on the touchline looking at it, shouting "go!" and the dog, running over to its owner, and Terry running against him. Thankfully, Terry was very quick in them days, so he won the race, and we didn't have to do any extra work. But yeah, there was some real. Honestly, I know I sometimes can't remember last week, but I certainly got really good memories of that ground. Even going to see, some of the other teams play there as well. My brother and brother-in-law got to finals and semi-finals there. I went to watch them, so it was always a community, and living in the community there, it was always a hub of action. There was always something going on, a big game, or to go and watch. So it's great. But yeah, and I remember later on, I think under 15s when I went to Harrington High, we reached the final and played Cardinal Heenan, who had the 5 or 6 Leeds City boys players in there. And again, I say a full house, everyone round the pitch, great atmosphere. I think we drew 0-0 and shared the trophy. There was no penalties in them days. So, but yeah, just happy memories. And I think, if I'm honest, I shouldn't be saying this, I probably nicked over a couple of times and practiced a bit of crossing and finishing with my pals sometimes. But no, it was as a kid growing up, that's where you wanted to play. Obviously you get older, you want to play at Elland Road or whatever it may be at the time. But as a kid growing up, there were some great football memories, I've got to say.
Look, we know anybody who's even cast a slight glance over your career that you wore your heart on your sleeve as a player. And you're coming across as being quite emotional about those old memories as well. I remember when I went to play there, and for me, it was probably about as good as it ever got. The heart palpitations as you walk on the pitch, because it's something a bit special. Did you sort of feel like yourself at the time as well?
Yeah, certainly so. I'm trying to think of teams. I don't think Liverpool came once, but I think with Sheffield boys, as Leeds City boys going from under 11, 12, 13, 14s and up, we used to play there on a Saturday morning sometimes. Had some good memories, just really good memories. And as you say, going in there, where you go through the sort of little gate and sort of turnstile next to it, and then down to the dressing rooms. But it seems silly now looking back, because I've been fortunate to play in some decent stadiums throughout my career. But it always still holds a special place, because that's where I was brought up in football. Really, both watching, as I said, some of the older games, but actually playing and you knew if you got to a semi-final or final, you were going to play at, as we called it, Oldfield Lane.
So, being a redhead as you were, and being a box-to-box midfielder, well, eventually anyway, I'm quite sure what position you were playing back in those days, and given that sort of era, which would have been the early to middle 70s, I'm thinking it might have been a fairly fiery Scottish midfielder playing just down the road who could have inspired you, Billy Bremner.
Well, certainly so. I do. It's funny you should say that, because I do remember one occasion. My dad was living up in Scotland, and he didn't come down to many games. I think I got to about under 15s at Leeds City boys, and was only 4'1" and about 7 stone dripping wet. So I hadn't grown that much. But just talking about the late great Billy Bremner there, I remember getting told, I thought I was going to play this Saturday. I can't remember what it might have been. I don't know if it was Sheffield boys or not. So my dad drove all the way down to Scotland to come to the game. And when I get there, I find out I'm not playing. And then my dad was this. I was more disappointed for my dad. I got on for 10 minutes or something. But I remember him speaking to one of the coaches afterwards, and one of the coaches says, "Listen, I'm sorry, Mr. McCall, but we do think out of all the players playing that your son will be the one. He says, just a little bit small at the moment." And then my dad went into a rage about a rant about Billy Bremner, Johnny Giles, Bobby Collins, at the time. And my dad wasn't the biggest himself, and he managed to play for Leeds. So it was actually quite funny. But yeah, Billy Bremner at the time, as he said, growing up was one that I used to watch and love to sort of to be really captain of Scotland and everything, wasn't he?
He wasn't the worst, was he? Favourite playing memory, if you can pick one out from playing at the TV, the Oldfield Lane, I should say.
Yeah, do you know, I've got to be honest, again, my memory's not the best, but I remember playing, like say, I think it was under 15, 16s, and Harrington High, which used to be the old cow close up at Farnley there. How we got to a final, I never knew, because we just had lads that weren't the best, but were a good bunch and just loved training and playing. And we were playing Cardinal Heenham, and they had 5 or 6 of the boys in the Leeds City boys team, and I think 4 of them went on to sign for Leeds United. So we were playing them in a final, and it was sort of, you know, I'd meet up with, they were all part of Farsley Celtic team as well, and I thought we were going to get a doing, so we didn't say too much, I didn't say too much. In the end, we got a 0-0, and I remember at the end of it, all the supporters were there, were really getting behind us, because it was like backs to the wall, and I think we had a lad who played rugby playing up front for us, and we had a goalkeeper that never played goals in his life, and you know, it was an odd book put together. So I just remember and sort of learning a lesson from that no matter who's got the best players, it's, as long as you give your all and be as competitive as you can and play to final whistle. And we drew 0-0, and it was as if we'd won the World Cup, because, like I said, they didn't do extra time on penalties them days. I think it was getting a bit dark maybe, and there were no floodlights at the time, but we just shared the cup. So we managed to get the cup for 6 months, and they had it for 6 months. So that's probably me. Even though it was a sort of a drab 0-0, I think the lesson of just getting a group of lads, because we had some better players at the school, but they weren't that bothered about coming to training, you know, and they thought they'd just, you know, roll up, we've got a final, we'll play. But the teacher, you know, the sports teacher made it clear, if you don't come to training, you don't play in the final. And I think 2 or 3 of them thought, oh, no, they'll pick us, they ain't got anybody else. And in the end, as I say, we drafted a couple of rugby boys in. And so I think that was a model, and that sort of stood me in good stead for the future. You know, have people that want to play for you, and you won't go far wrong.
Well, you did better than me, Stuart, because I think I played there 3 times, a couple of semi-finals, lost on penalties in both of them to the same school, Tinshill Middle School up Cookridge Way.
Oh, we used to thrash them.
Sorry, no. And then I think also lost to the Airedale and Wharfdale schools playing against the City boys. So trying to mark Brian Dean all afternoon, not the easiest of tasks, I've got to say. So I'll put my hands up for that one. You're the winner, as you have been throughout your footballing career. We'll maybe ask you a couple of questions about that in a minute, but I just wanted to touch on one other thing that we did have in common as juniors, and that was playing for Pudsey Juniors, which in those days, they never played in leagues. It was all about trying to pick the cream of the players from the local area and picking your opponents. And I know that they've got a long list of people who ended up making it as professionals. I seem to remember the words Mike Duxbury being pumped out around about the time I was a junior. I think he came through the ranks, but obviously yourself always got mentioned at those presentation evenings that you went to. Can you think of anybody else from your era who went on and played elsewhere? Andy Duggan and Graham Mitchell were 2 lads who played in my team, and they both ended up playing for Huddersfield Town, and I'm not sure if both played for Bradford City, but certainly Mitch played for Bradford City.
Yeah, he did, yeah. Do you know, I can't. I think we had a few lads at Pudsey Juniors that went to Farsley Celtic, because you either went to Farsley Celtic or Yorkshire Amateurs, I think, at them days when you got to the under 15, under 16 level. But no, I remember the Sundays always going around Yorkshire, really. We didn't get, you know, Airedale and Wharfdale being I think it was at times what it used to be winning 11 and 12-0. So that was the thing. It sometimes wasn't as competitive, because we did have the cream of the players, but we used to get coached well, and we had a good group. As I say, a lot of them went into Leeds United between 16 and 18. Unfortunately, Mick Ashby, the goalie, Jared Hill, Dave Harrison, you know, I think he's coaching at Man City now, maybe. So there were lads like that. We certainly had a lot of good players. But Pudsey Juniors was a good grounding for a lot of players. So I think, you know, Kevin Broadhurst, I think, went to Birmingham City. Trevor Parr, I think, might have been up through Pudsey Juniors as well. Went on to play for Bradford as well. So there were great times then.
Yeah, good days. Obviously, your father's Celtic days, and then you signed for Bradford. And as I say, there's so much to talk about with your career that we could be here forever. But I just wanted to really pick out what are those 2 or 3 defining moments, if you like. Is it scoring that one and only international goal, or is it playing in a World Cup, or is that first cap for Scotland, or is it something else, a Bradford City, or something else related to memory or two?
Yeah, listen, I've been very, very fortunate to have a decent career and play with some great players under some great managers in front of some great fans. But I think defining moments, I think the biggest one would probably be when I got picked for Scotland and England under 21s on the same day. Ended up picking England, went over to Turkey, the under 21s. People like Tony Cottee and David Seaman might have been there, and I can't remember some of the other boys, Des Walker maybe. Maybe not some of them, but Paul Bracewell, Ian Snodding was definitely there. But anyway, cut long story short, if I'd have got on, I was sub. I didn't get on. If I'd have got on, that would me. I could only played for England, and obviously I had some outstanding midfield players. But the final whistle went. I didn't get on. I came back, changed my allegiance to Scotland. A few years later, I played as an overage player for under 21s, and went on, as you say, to play 40 times for Scotland. And but if I'd have got on the pitch against Turkey for England, I would never have been maybe played in a World Cup, Euro 92, Euro 96. And the only Scottish player playing all 9 games, every minute a game. So that was a little bit fortunate, because that's sometimes how things work. If I'd have got in the park, it wouldn't have happened. So that was a defining moment. But I think if I look back on my career, for the best bits, obviously a couple of promotions with Bradford, which was brilliant, and going to Everton, which was fantastic. 7 years at Rangers, doing 9 in a row. I think my debut for Scotland, we played against, in 1990, prior to Italian 90, we played against the current holders, Argentina, and I managed to set up Stuart McCall on my debut for a goal, and we beat him 1-0. So as you can imagine, the Tartan Army, we're going to Italian 1990, and we'd just beaten Argentina, who was the holders from 86. So if we can beat the World Cup holders, then we're going to go and win it, obviously. And then we come up against Costa Rica and we get beat. So that was a different matter. But I think highlights, playing for Scotland, as you say, getting promotion with Bradford to the Premiership was incredible. And then I think being inducted into the Rangers Hall of Fame was, something I'll never forget and always treasure.
Yeah, fantastic. And you gave us a lot of pleasure in watching you. We remember the 2 goals. I remember them clearly, actually, the 2 FA Cup final goals. Although obviously the result didn't go your way that day. But it must have been an awesome experience to be involved in something like that at the old Wembley, as it was. And then just from your managerial career, what could you pick out for us in that? Because you've had plenty of success doing that as well. Is it about winning the trophy or the Manager of the Year award, or is it something to do with how you improve a player or a team? Does that give you more of a boost?
I think when you look back at the time, it's about winning games and trying to get the end result. I mean, for example, at Motherwell, we're in a table at League of 12, and I think we probably had about 7th or 8th budget, but the aim was to finish, in the top 6, because they have a little split in you. But we managed to finish 2nd twice and 3rd once. And one season we took Motherwell into Champions League, which if somebody said that was going to happen, they got carried away, So, things like that. But when you look back, bringing young players through, seeing them going on and progressing their careers, which is brilliant. Picking bargain buys up young boys and moulding them or trying to help them just progress. I think we get as much, even now when I've been in the game a long time, I get as much pleasure from seeing young players come through and be successful and move on. We always, at the level I'm at the moment, I understand totally. You always want to keep your best players, but at the end of the day, you don't stand in the way if they've got chances to go and progress. And we've had that at Motherwell and certainly had it at Bradford on a few occasions. So. But yeah, no. Listen, I think football, to play football is unbelievable, and the next best thing is obviously to try to be involved in it, and to be a manager and coach is it's stressful, it's tough, but it's certainly enjoyable.
You've made a good job of it. You've made a very good job of it. A great career, and Stuart, we thank you immensely for putting in some time to talk to us about those career highlights. Just really wanted to get you to wrap up with a message, if you can, for people watching this podcast who might feel like they want to contribute. Why is it so important that the Wortley area keeps the TV Harrison Sports Ground?
Yeah, well, it just gives kids a chance to have dreams, doesn't it? You see nowadays, back in my day, back in the 30, 40 years ago, seeing lads playing football, kids playing football and out or doing whatever. Nowadays we know they play more football on the PlayStations and the Game Boys and that. So to have somewhere you can go and play and learn in a safe environment, and look back at the history of the place. There has been some decent players graced there, and there've been some fantastic games, local games and encounters. But I think it's important for a community to have somewhere like that where, you know, people can go enjoy the sport in a safe area, but also go and get behind your local clubs and community. And I think I think we've got enough houses about, haven't we? Let's keep the football pitches.
Brilliant. Many thanks, folks. That's it from Stuart and myself for now. Thanks for watching. Please do contribute. I'll be leaving the details up once this cuts off. All the full details of where you can get involved with the community action groups and where you can send your donations to as well. But from Stuart and from myself, goodbye for now.
Cheers.